Jodah, my position is I think it's a good thing that Sam Altman was canned by the board of OpenAI. I'm cheering that on. I know that's probably an unpopular opinion. What is your take?
You forced me to want to first actually ask you because I don't actually have that kind of a take. I don't feel like I have enough information, and I'm really curious as to what information you've gleaned in this really short amount of time that would give you that ability to make that statement.
It's not been a
So
short amount of time.
you.
It's been a year. It's been a year since he
Okay.
became on the public stage when ChatGPT 3.5 dropped in November of 2022. And I remember that ABC interview he did. And he just came off as like a Bond villain, and I know a lot of people say he's very charismatic and he's this wonderkind.
Uh-huh.
But what I saw was this kind of Bond villain who spoke in the soft, crackly voice. And, I fully expected a cat to jump on his lap and he was going to stroke the cat and yes, millions of people are going to lose their jobs. And, given if the circumstances are right, humanity might be completely destroyed by artificial intelligence. So I'm afraid of it too. So that was not comforting. And so
I'm afraid of it too.
He did. He said he was afraid of it too.
Yeah, no.
He said, you shouldn't trust me if I weren't afraid of it.
Something to concern yourself with. Yeah, no, he definitely positioned himself, which I think he was trying to leverage as a way of him saying, I'm with you. There is danger here. And yes, we're playing with Prometheus's fire. We're being very delicate and we're going to be careful because we know it's dangerous. So there's a PR aspect to that.
Well, he's a guy with his foot on the gas pedal. He has his foot on the gas pedal. He's an accelerator.
What's the sense-making aspect from here? Because you made a comment that you find him to be off-putting from a personality. Is that sufficient to say goodbye, or is there something that you think there's fundamental?
No, I do think that I think there's one of the many tensions going on with this story is that there is this divide, obviously, in open AI and the larger society between those who are want to hit the accelerator, go fast, break things, and just let the technology do what it's going to do and discover the fixes along the way. And that seems to be the Sam Altman approach, and he's more aligned with the corporate interest, the venture capitalist interests. And I think there's another side to the story, which we're seeing manifested in this situation, which is the safety side. Like, we need to slow down, take a pause, and make sure that we're doing the right things, because it will impact millions of jobs, and it could have negative impacts on larger society if we don't take this seriously. So that's one of the reasons I'm in favor of Sam Altman being put to the sidelines for the moment. But he might be back soon, according to headlines.
It might be for reasons. Okay, yes, and I think my first thought of everything you said was be suspicious of the media and be suspicious of the signals that each side wants you to see. It's possible that Sam Bankman-Fried is a bad guy here, and it's all about because
we're not talking about Sam Bankman-Fried. We're talking about
Sam Altman. Sam Altman, the other Sam, right?
The evil Sams.
Evil Sams. But that in similar fashion, that he is being reckless with this new technology. There is that possibility, and it's probably likely to some degree. To your point, because it gets exciting. You can't, how do you say no to this stuff when you're kind of the one who's creating it?
Well, yeah.
And it's also possible that we have these super people, this board that cares about humanity and making decisions to make sure that we're in a better position.
Well, that's their mission, right? We have to remember that OpenAI was founded as a nonprofit in 2015, and many of the people involved in this ouster, or actually the guy who led the ouster, what was his name? Ilya?
I don't know if he led it. He's one of the signatories, so yeah, for sure.
Oh, yeah. I think there's evidence that he led it.
I don't know if you've got it. That's fine.
Yeah, no,
my point being is that those are signals that they want you saying, yes, that was, and let's talk about that. But I'm suspicious of the reality of that story. I would be more inclined to believe. I heard that the board was concerned that he was he wasn't exercising his responsibilities correctly. He wasn't being candid with them.
Yeah, he wasn't being honest.
And that could be all for also. And they sold the story as it's because he wasn't being candid, and possibly because he was doing something that was going to go counter against what you just said, the sort of stated purpose of the ChatGPT organization. But that's quite possibly not even true.
Oh, that's
We're
true.
talking about
That's true.
We're talking about egos up there.
Oh, yeah.
And for all we know, the board is just as willing to make the horrific decisions that's going to destroy us as much as Sam is. It just could have been a control thing. And I read recently that there was possibility that he was negotiating with a big money fund in the Middle East to produce a chip that was supposed to help facilitate AI process or something like that, and that kind of pissed off the board because he wasn't telling them the truth about that. Was it because they were not comfortable with this money group in the Middle East? Possibly. Or is it because he wasn't keeping them in the loop and that just pissed them off? Again, you just be suspicious of what they're telling you they want you to know.
I don't trust anything I read in the media. And yeah, I think you're right that you need to be very skeptical, especially in the fog of the firing, right? We talk about the fog of the war. We have the fog of the coup as it is, right? And so what's that?
What's
what's
your new book? Fog of the Coup.
Fog of the Coup. That's what. Yeah. So yeah, we have to wait and see. There's also speculation that OpenAI has made some significant progress with future iterations of ChatGPT that they haven't announced yet, and that might be of concern as well. And you also are starting to see more government intervention, right? The U.S. government has released an executive order on AI and an AI Bill of Rights that we're going to see more government intervention on companies developing these foundation models, these dual purpose foundation models to do whatever they're going to do with them.
Yeah. And you brought up and then you just you brought this thing that I think is personally is the lead in a weird way, and that is the purpose of this organization, where its primary function was not to satisfy fiduciary needs for the investors, but in theory was to satisfy the betterment of humanity
through AI.
How you qualify or quantify that, I don't know. Can you tokenize it? Maybe, but that was interesting. And are there more companies doing that? Because that really
it feels like a very unique model, right? It feels like, because they started off as a nonprofit again in 2015 with Elon Musk at the table, as people might remember. And then Elon has over the years stepped away and pulled out, and in 2019, and has been critical of the direction OpenAI has gone in. And then in 2019, they launched some limited liability corporations. I think there's two of them that run the business end, and one of those, I think it's OpenAI Global, that accepts the money from Microsoft, because Microsoft's pouring millions of dollars or billions of dollars into OpenAI, and starting to incorporate, and of course we know, into Bing and all the different Microsoft products.
Yeah, and so is there a conflict of interest there? Because Microsoft, I'm sure, doesn't have that as I'm sure they're fully about fiduciary needs.
Yep.
And here they are investing tons of money into a company that, in theory, suggests its purpose is to better their number one metric will be the betterment of humankind. The secondary would be making money for some people. And interestingly, they made it so that the leadership and directorship, they actually
can't make profit.
They can't make a profit.
Yeah, now, they can't get stock.
Again, that's this is a space that I'm so unfamiliar with. Is there other ways for them to make money, though, through this system?
I'm
back
sure.
channels, again.
They're not.
I don't trust what they're saying to me as literally what they're saying to me.
I mean, there's altruism and then there's altruism, and I don't think these folks are that altruistic, right?
Right.
Right. So there's some sort of financial benefit for the work that they're putting into. And the other thing I think about, what's interesting about this model too, I was surprised to learn that 3 employees were actually on the board, because Sam was on the board, Ilya was on the board, and there's some other employee that was on the board, and there's 3 outsiders on the board as well. Adam D'Angelo, Tasha Macaulay, and then Helen Toner. But everybody else is actually employees on the board, and that felt very unusual to me. I've worked in nonprofits my whole life, and whether it's been in higher education or the arts sector, and you don't generally have employees actually serving on the board.
Right.
It seems like there's a conflict of interest there.
Conflict of interest. Yeah, exactly. That would there has to be, you know. But again, this is a different structure.
Yeah, no, it's fascinating structure and a bizarre
very
one.
fascinating. In fact, that the Ilya guy, you know, he has been in the AI space for a long time, and it was actually Elon Musk who got him to come over to this.
Oh,
company.
interesting.
He didn't even want to come, and Elon he said, "Look, what's the quote?" Elon said, "Do I have it?" OpenAI to inciting conflict of interest. No, that's something else. But he made a comment that Ilya he brought him to come over because Ilya was a good person, and he said we need good people, good hearted.
And it's Ilya Sutskever, right?
I think it's Ilya Sutskever. Yep.
Yeah.
And so his purpose was to be the human side of this, and so, but he's also a programmer, or I'm not
he's
sure
a researcher.
Kind of
he's an AI researcher, and he's
a researcher.
And I think the nonprofit side is kind of I from reading between the lines of what I've been able to gather about this situation, that's where Ilja's coming from. He's coming from the researcher side, the academic side, who wants more safety and wants to slow down with the rolling out of these products. Whereas, again, Sam Altman seems to be the guy with a foot on the gas pedal, wanting to drive things into the marketplace.
Again, I think so. I don't know, but I will say that Tasha Macaulay, she was a signer of the Asilomar AI principles, which Max Tegmark, I think Max Tegmark, the physicist guy, is part of. He's one of the founders of, and so this is a group that's come together with concerns about AI. So there are a lot of organizations that are concerned about this, and the fact that we have in theory, a board. Basically, it's almost like putting a pro solar energy board on a oil company.
Yeah.
You know, they put a board that was almost conflicting against, and which I think is actually a cool thing, to your point, because of that make it and break it kind of philosophy that we're starting to see. We're getting to such a scale that we can't continue to do it that way. If I'm just going to kind of maybe break the local taxi system, that's one thing. If I'm going to break society, that's another thing, So we have to really think about this.
Well, yeah, and then I think another interesting aspect to this from a leadership perspective is that as a CEO, part of your job is to manage that board. You would think, right? And so did Sam see this coming? Everyone claims they were blindsided by this, but should they have seen some advanced warning that this might be coming if they were kind of going against what the board wanted, and if they were indeed withholding information and not being as candid as they should be about different things that were going on? So
you bring up a really good point. Actually, I think you might have just Hercule Poirot it in some regard, because you're right. Sam said, I had no clue this was happening. Now, again, that could just be him saying, whoa, what, me? I'm just a little guy doing my job over here. But if we take that to heart's truth, that he did not see that coming to some degree, that means more than likely that's a signal that he was doing stuff probably that the board was not happy with. It probably has, and that it's likely probably has nothing to do with the things they've said. It was probably just a power structure problem.
Yeah, and I've heard an inflection point for this tension was a recent OpenAI Dev Day event they had last week or recently, where they unveiled, they brought a bunch of developers together who are developing new platforms off of the large scale language model, right? So the foundation model. And so they were, Altman, was kind of center stage there. He brought in the CEO of Microsoft, and they had a moment on stage together. And then they unveiled ChatGPT 4 Turbo, which has more memory and more recent data to pull from, I think up to 2023. So they were going to unleash that. And he said there that pretty soon, next year, when we have this the follow-up event to this, you're going to see things that we're working on that will make this seem pedestrian, what we're showing you now. So that's another signal that there's something going on. There's something in development at OpenAI that might be really groundbreaking. And maybe they're pushing it too fast for people.
Yeah, and I think,
or is he just being a
that
salesman, right? Which is his job.
so again, what's that? What's that guy? Igmar or what?
Ilja.
Ilja. He's sort of he's quoted as saying that he really does believe that he's coined, or someone's coined the term super AI.
Yeah.
Will happen in 10 years. So AI is like this. Just so people know, AI is something that resembles our intelligence, probably just a little bit more. Like a faster, smarter human, basically. Super intelligence is sort of like godlike intelligence, right? And where it's just magnitudes more powerful and intelligent than we are. And he perceives that could be happening in 10 years. So 10 years is not a long time.
Nope.
And so we're talking about orders of magnitude. So we could probably see huge jumps and leaps within 6 months, 1 year period, if he's correct. So yeah, it's quite possible they've got something that's probably terrifying.
Yeah. Yeah. And maybe the safetiest one out in this particular skirmish. What's going to be interesting to see if because the CEO they appointed too, Mira Murati, the CEO they appointed, interim CEO they appointed, I believe she's a safetyist as well. I've seen interviews with her, and she tends to take. I feel like, based on what I remember of the interviews with her, she's taken a more cautious approach with AI, and so I think they put a safetyist in charge as well.
Let me ask you this question though, sort of like you said, like the young sort of archetype of the not knowing your audience, but I'm freaking so smart, I'm untouchable kind of thing existing. Don't you think that if you were a head of an AI department, that like job one is to make sure everybody knows that you're making sure that you're not going to make Skynet? I would think that's
you would
job
think
one.
so.
And
you would think so.
And so I'm not saying that it's what they would be doing. I'm just saying it's what they'd be saying. I'm saying that's job one, right? It'd be like, oh no, we agree. It's totally, we're making sure it's not going to take your job, or if it does, it won't, whatever. I don't know how much I care about what they're saying, I guess is what I'm saying, because I would think that would be just part of the marketing. You have.
Well, actually, I think the marketing for OpenAI and ChatGPT has been brilliant. I mean, I think the fear actually works in their favor, right? It's a brilliant, dark, evil type of marketing approach, right? By what better way to raise awareness than to raise people's fear of Skynet emerging from this technology? It's going to make people turn their heads and look, So it's scaled up really quickly, not just because of the amazing things that initial ChatGPT 3.5 bot could do, and it was like, oh, I've never seen anything like this before, this is really cool, but it was also really scary, and it continues. The fear still lingers, percolating underneath our conversations around AI, and I think that the job impact is a real thing, and that's something that that's the thing I'm most concerned about. I'm less concerned about the AI bots or a platform being used to take control of the world and enslave us. I am concerned about it automating too many jobs away too quickly, and us not having an economic plan to address that.
There is like almost no real talk on that.
Like, no, and that's the primary thing. It's interesting. Even in the Biden administration's executive order on AI, they talk about the impact of AI on job creation. They don't talk about AI eliminating jobs, which I thought was an interesting omission on their part.
Put them in a hard spot, Let's definitely let's maybe put that aside. I think let's talk about that in another episode.
Yeah,
because I think we can deep dive on that a little more. We've kind of touched on it past, but I think we can definitely explore that a little more.
But getting back to our point, I do think it's going to be interesting to see if the OpenAI governance model is sustainable in the long term. I don't think it is. I think it was too easy for them to pull off this coup against Sam Altman. I'm glad to see that he got put in his place.
Let me pause you there. So that's the part that I'm a little curious about. I don't. Boards have the right to fire a CEO.
Oh, for sure.
Right. There's no coup there. Boards do it. In fact, I wrote these down. The CEO is these are the 4 top things that this list said. CEO is not meeting performance goals. CEO is engaged in illegal activity. CEO has behaved in an unethical manner.
which they
And the
have
CEO
not said anything of like that.
And listen to this one: causing disharmony within the company.
Okay.
So that's an easy one, right? For you to kind of like use that all the time, probably.
Yeah.
So when they say this is an unorthodox, I'm curious what they mean by that, because it's not uncommon. Other than I don't know how is it unorthodox? CEOs get fired all the time, and
Yeah.
so
No, I
why
mean,
is it weird? I don't know. I'm curious.
I think it's unorthodox in multiple different ways. Again, having employees at the actual company on the board is kind of interesting, right? And that Greg Brockman, who was actually the president of the board, wasn't there for the vote. He's one of the people who was told that he was being removed from the board. So it wasn't just Sam Altman who was impacted by this. Greg Brockman, who was another founder, was removed as president of the board and told he could still continue to work at OpenAI, and then declined. Of course, he said, no, I'm going to quit because I'm in alignment with Sam. So that's unusual too. So it's not just the CEO, but it's also the board president getting axed. And I'm going to say Ilya led that charge, or it seems as though Ilya may have led that charge, and he is an actual employee with the company. So that seems just very unusual to me in terms of board governance.
And I'd love to like maybe explore that maybe later on too, because the more you bring that up, the more I'm thinking it is unusual, because the board is like a board class, right? There's this class of people that are on boards, and they don't lift a pencil anymore in their life, right? They go on it, they wear their suits, or they have
another job. People, they might be a CEO somewhere else,
right? I'm sure you're fully effective people. I'm being very reductive here, but my point being is that longer the days are you working doing a spreadsheet and giving it to a manager or something like that, or programming. That's gone. You don't do that unless you have fun doing it. And my point being is that they're sort of separate, and their full purpose is to make sure is to advise and to fire CEOs, so that they can, and they're capable of making sure the company is performing for, again, fiduciary purposes, I think for the most part, right? And what's interesting is hold on.
You're once again here. What you're saying is highlighting the tension about the whole ChatGPT governance model, because you keep using terms like fiduciary responsibility. It is a nonprofit board, right? So their whole thing is about just pursuing the mission of OpenAI,
right? But also to make sure it benefits people, right? Which is the mission. And which is interesting. So they put people on the board, if you know what I mean. They put so by having employees on there, all of a sudden, if you have employees on the board, now you're actually caring about the employees. Until then, it's sort of an abstract level. So it's a misalignment for the classic board reasons of existing. But with this other version, it kind of puts boards at a weird spot, because their sole purpose typically is for fiduciary purposes. That's what any board, historically speaking.
Well, yeah, there's a fiduciary even in a nonprofit board, right? For sure.
That's their purpose. I mean, they're making sure that you're running right, and you're pulling in, you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, and making the whatever it is you're making for whoever you're making it for. Well, in this circumstance, it's in theory the purpose of this company is for the benefit of humankind. In theory, that's their kind of purpose. And so by putting workers in there, it almost creates what we like to call a steel thread from the top down to the bottom.
These are bottom level workers on the board. These are like the founders.
Right, but the one is still kind of, he's a creator though, right? Absolutely.
Yeah, but these guys aren't. These guys are multimillionaire.
But trust me, boards are never doing that. This isn't like
the janitors on the board.
Yeah, but you're abusing the notion. Board people on a board are typically upper management who aren't doing research. They're on the board. They're typically speaking, right?
Well, they're usually outsiders.
Right, and they have to be because you want objective views. Right. And you want objective views because you want to be able to make the hard choices, despite, you're going to have to lay off those 400,000 people or whatever it is for this company to survive, and they it's not that they don't care, but they have that objectiveness, where it's by introducing, in theory, probably people who are kind of working in the company, it makes them care about the company as a company more, as opposed to the outside.
So I think you're thinking again. I think you're thinking of this. You're giving them too much.
I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm looking at.
I'm not saying you're saying it's right or wrong but I think you're making a lot of assumptions that I don't see in this board model. I see you're kind of giving them too much grace in this.
I'm giving
instance.
them no. See, I'm giving them no grace. I'm saying it's an interesting concept, and I'm wondering if there's something that played into that. I'm not saying that's why they did it. I just find it interesting.
Well, for sure, it probably played into. That's why I wonder if the model is sustainable, right? Like you have a 6-member board, which is already kind of small, with 3 employees on the board, and they're all of them are found. 3 of those board members are founders of the company, and the other 3 are outsiders. I just don't know if it's a sustainable model. We'll see. I mean, they're going to have to examine.
What would make it not sustainable?
Well, the results of this decision, right, to terminate Sam Altman, and
I would think if it really came down to making money, and
it's not about it's a non-profit board, so the is its purpose to make money, or is its purpose to pursue the mission? And see, that's where I get the sustainability issue. I keep seeing this friction because they want to be a nonprofit and they want to be a for-profit.
Absolutely.
And so is that tension eventually going to make that board structure untenable?
That's right.
Because Microsoft could easily turn around and say, you know what? Our deals were with Sam Altman. We're pulling our billions of dollars out of OpenAI. Mm-hmm. That's probably not going to happen, but it's a possibility. So because we want to make sure our shareholders are making maximum profit, not and who gives a rinky-dink about the future of humanity? What does rinky-dink mean? I have no idea.
God, I hope Microsoft doesn't say who gives a shit about the.
I don't know.
Is that in their bio? They're like, and we can give a rat's ass about the betterment of humankind. I don't think so. But.
Well, I don't know. I don't know if Microsoft has the best track record.
No. I'm just saying. I hope they don't. I hope that's not written somewhere.
And I mean, if you were to actually look at the betterment of humanity through OpenAI's actions, I mean, there's a lot of stuff to question there, right? I mean, how much energy, electricity, and water does it take to keep these large language models operating, these foundation models operating, right, in these server warehouses, right? What's the environmental impact? What's the impact on the psychology of all those people who have to tune these AI models and are exposed to really dreadful information from the dark web that is informing some of these language models, right? There's a lot of really deep ethical questions. So I think there's plenty of discussion that can be had around OpenAI and whether it's bettering humanity.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, for sure. There's definitely dangers that we have to contend with this technology. That, again, no one's really in the position. The people who are in the position to really make a difference aren't really talking about it. I guess maybe Elon Musk. Elon Musk is like our only hero right now because he's actively supposedly creating anti-AI. That's why he actually pulled out in 2017 or 16, because he was like, you guys are freaking nuts. He's like, you guys are just building this thing willy-nilly. You can't do it this way.
Yeah, but he's also blowing up rockets like firecrackers. So.
Well, have you seen those rockets land? Oh my God, it's like from another fucking movie. It's
his latest one just blew up. Anyway, so I mean, do you feel like we've covered the Sam Altman case?
I think so. So the fact is, he got fired. He might be fired again. There's a power structure. We don't know where it's going, and there's a possibility that the dichotomy of nonprofit versus profit, bringing those together in the way that they did it could just be an implosion, and it might not be sustainable.
Yeah, and that we have an ongoing tension between this accelerator mentality versus safetyism in the AI space, and that
which we didn't touch on. But again, we should talk on.
I think we touched on it. I think it's there, right? And I think Ilya is part of that too, and so is the interim CEO. So
that's true. We did kind of bring him. Ilya's our new guy. He's our new safetyism guy. So
it seems.
Anyways,
we hope.
Yeah, it seems right. Exactly. He seems like, when you read up on him, every interview he's ever been, I think that's kind of his position. I think he's sort of a cautious character. So
All right.
good
Well, folks,
conversation.
if you like this conversation about OpenAI and Sam Altman, make sure to hit that subscribe and like button and share us with your friends and make some comments below. And we'll see you on the next edition of the Sense and Signal podcast, whether it's long form or micro edition like this one. Take care, everybody.
That's right, everybody. See you later. Enjoy. Oh, and happy Thanksgiving if we don't see you soon.